This is the Heather Patero Show, where conversation meets calling. Well, welcome to the Heather Patero Show. This is Heather Patero, and you're going to love today's episode. It is talking about the value of people. And when people hear the words prison ministry, a lot of them quietly assume one of two things. Either this is going to be really heavy, or it's going to feel so specific that it doesn't have anything to do with them. But this conversation is bigger than that. It's about what it means to feel forgotten, what it means to carry something hard in silence, and what it means when somebody shows up with compassion, consistency, and love, and refuses to let you walk through it alone. My guests today are Walter Straham and Rosa Fossett-Gilbert. Walter serves through Kairos Prison Ministry with incarcerated men and youth. Rosa serves through Kairos Outside, supporting women on the outside who are quietly doing time right alongside someone they love. Two different sides of the story, but one common thread: people matter. Walter and Rosa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Heather.
Great. Thank you.
So, Walter, I want to start with you. Tell us what Kairos Ministry is.
Well, Kairos Ministry is a lay-led interdenominational Christian ministry involving men and women bringing Christ's love and forgiveness to prisoners and their families, where we go in and we changing hearts, transforming lives, and impacting the world.
And Rosa, what is Kairos Outside?
Kairos Outside is part of Kairos Prison Ministry International, and we don't go into the prisons. With Kairos Outside, we provide a support weekend for women who have a loved one that is either in prison, jail, or a youth facility. And it's also for women who have been in prison but didn't get a chance to have a Kairos experience while they were inside. So it's a weekend of just support, encouragement, and unconditional love.
Oh, that's wonderful. Walter, you said that years ago during a bike ride across Georgia that a friend was talking about wanting to instill the idea of adding value to people. And then later in Sunday school, somebody mentioned Kairos, and suddenly those two moments connected to you. That's not random, is it? That's the kind of thing that keeps coming back until you pay attention, right?
That is so true. It's often, when we're having our team formation meetings, and we'll probably talk about this later, people have said that they go running away from the prison. That they said they would never serve in the prison. Well, I was a little bit different. It was the fact that I had that conversation, and we were just circling around and just talking about adding value in people's lives. And then when that term Kairos came up and the guy was talking about Kairos, I actually jumped to the occasion as opposed to running away from it. And so, like I said, we can give people possessions and money and things of that nature, and they could blow it. It fades away. But when you spend time with people, that's one thing that they will always remember.
That's awesome. And how did that work deepen the meaning as you went through it?
It deepened the meaning because as I started serving, I started working in Kairos Inside, and as I went in to work with those men, and then the times that I didn't show up, it was like either if I was on a vacation or work related or something like that. And then the next month when I was coming back, the guys would actually say, "Hey, we missed you." And the fact that, and if I was gone for a long period of time for whatever reason, it was like, well, wait a minute, what's going on? They had genuine concern about me. And then it almost came to the point like, hey, if you didn't show up, I wasn't going to show up. Well, I had to correct that because, hey, it's not about us. It's about your relationship with Christ. And we're only here as a tool to make sure that we can keep that relationship going with you and with Christ, but to let you know people on the outside really love and care about you. And so we don't want you to feel forgotten.
No, that's wonderful. Now, Rosa, your story starts from a completely different angle. And honestly, that's part of what makes it so powerful. You didn't begin as a volunteer, you began as a guest. In 2010, you attended a Kairos Outside weekend on the receiving end. You were the one being supported, being encouraged, and being loved.
Mm-hmm.
And that experience stayed with you so deeply that you came back to do that for other women. That says a lot. So take me back there. What were you carrying in that season of life? And what did that weekend give you that you didn't even realize you needed?
My husband was in prison, and he went through a Kairos Inside weekend. And as Walter was talking about how the Kairos volunteers go into the prison to support the men and everything. And my husband went through a Kairos Inside weekend. And from what he got out of it, he signed me up to attend the Kairos Outside weekend. So I was actually, you might say I was sent to Kairos by my husband. And when I went to the Kairos Outside weekend, I thought that it was just a weekend for wives and girlfriends. And I found out, besides me being encouraged and receiving just unconditional love, I found out that it wasn't just wives, girlfriends, and fiancés. It was mothers and daughters and sisters and cousins and friends. It was for any woman that has a loved one who is either locked up or has been locked up. And it was just it was relaxing. It was welcoming because there was no judgment. There was nobody looking down on you or talking about you because you had someone in prison. It was just acceptance and love. And it was a chance to talk to other women, regardless of the relationship with the incarcerated loved one, and to realize, even though our relationships were different, I was a wife, but you're the mother of a child who's in prison, or your father is in prison. We all had something in common in that we had a loved one who was going through stuff, and we were going through stuff along with them. The visits, the way the guards treated you in the visitation room, the collect phone calls, just trying to take care of life on the outside while still loving and being there for our loved ones who are on the inside. And we realized we had a lot in common to kind of support each other and encourage each other to, we can do it. We're doing this together. But it was the overall thing that I got from that weekend was just the unconditional love. There was so much love and acceptance and just no judgment. It was just love.
So when did you know and say to yourself, oh, I want to come back and do this for someone else?
Okay, the Kairos Outside weekend starts on a Friday, and we finish up on a Sunday afternoon. And there are different activities and events that happen throughout the weekend. And it was probably after that Saturday night activities, I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is just, I love it. But then there are things that happen that Sunday morning also. So by lunchtime on Sunday, I was all in. I was like, oh, I've got to come back. I've got to let people that I know about this weekend and invite them to come and have this experience. And that was, the Kairos weekends are numbered. And the weekend that I was a guest was weekend number 25. And I went back on weekend number 26 to serve as a volunteer.
So what do you still carry from that experience still?
Besides that overwhelming feeling of love, I carry beautiful friendships that I have developed with women that were either on that weekend as guests also or on the team. And then women who have become part of my Kairos family that I've met through various weekends. We are on weekend number 44 now with Kairos Outside. And just over the years and the different weekends, just the bond that has been developed with the other ladies on the team, the other volunteers, the guests, and just that genuine love, sisterhood, and friendship. And just that desire to just have as many women as possible to feel just be enveloped in Christ's love.
Oh, that's incredible. And you know what I love already is that neither of your stories start with a title or a resume. It starts with a moment, a nudge, a hard season, maybe a phrase that would not leave you alone. And those are the stories that last, right?
Right.
So let's help people understand, Walter, what this looks like in real life, because Kairos is one of those things people may have heard of or maybe not, but they don't necessarily picture what actually happens. I actually laughed at this in your questionnaire. When people used to ask what your plans were for the weekend, sometimes you just say, fill in the blank.
I'm going to prison.
That'll shut down some
Right.
office small talk in a hurry, won't it?
So yes, so it's going into the prison. So basically, where I served was Kairos Inside, which is a male facility, and so we go in. So just imagine we going in to serve 42 guys, and it's 42 plus of us that are going in, and we go in, and it's a for Kairos Inside, it's a three and a half day, what we call a weekend. It's starting on a Thursday night, going all the way until Sunday, and then for the youth, which I also serve in, goes from a Friday night all the way until Sunday. So we go in and we do a series of talks. Or we say there's only one talk, and each talk is building off each talk as we go in and we talk about that. So from an inside perspective, we do those series of talks, and then we bring in good food. So that's the selling thing is the food. So they're coming for the food, and then they walk in on Thursday night. Some of them come in really, really hard. They're not going to break me. And then, you just sit back and you just see the change evolve by Sunday. All these guys are hugging each other. They're crying. And we write letters to them. And when I say write, we handwrite letters. These are not typed. They're handwrite letters. And we have people throughout the community making posters. We have kids at churches that are making posters, and we call that agape. And we hang that agape up several times throughout the weekend. And then as we're giving these talks, and these volunteers are sharing their life, and and what we encourage a volunteer to do is to be very vulnerable. And so we ask them to share things and then share how Christ has led them out of whatever that darkness was, because those guys are probably in their darkest moment right now. And so when they hear Walter giving a talk and he's saying how he went through this or he did this, and then how Christ has brought him out and how he's still dependent on Christ, not that we're perfect, but that we're still dependent on Christ, and that we're here and we're showing them love. And our motto is listen, listen, love, love. And so when the participant, we don't call them inmates, when that participant sits down and they're being called by their first name, and then when we're sitting down listening to them, because a lot of times no one listens, no one cares about what they have to say. And so when they feel that, hey, this guy who doesn't know me sits down and talks with me, eats with me, sings with me, and if it's a youth, play a game with me, says a whole lot. So they leave there thinking, okay, I don't trust anybody. I don't care about anybody. But now a person who doesn't even know me loves me and cares for me. And then on top of that, throughout every minute of that time that we're there, people are praying for us. And we come in with a prayer chain, and that chain has a name of everybody who is praying for them from the time we start until we leave. And they see that chain, and that chain is wrapped around the room that we're in. And then we also have people who have already gone through the weekend, and those people are praying for them too. And they may see their name, and it's a different color because it's white, and they'll see their name. And we have seen times where somebody who's, say, in Phillips State Prison knows somebody at another facility because they know that name, and they see that name on that chair, on that prayer link or prayer chain, and it's like, and then that touches them again. And then they receive a bag of letters, and they receive all this different agape, and it just opens up their hearts to say, hey, all these people who don't even know me is showing me love, and they're listening to what I have to say. So that really has a huge impact. Not only the love, not only the listen, but again, I go back to the value. The value add is I'm sitting there, I'm giving up my time, and they know this, and they say that, Walter, you have left your family, you have left what you could be doing to spend time with me, and that carries a long way for them.
That's wonderful. So it's about, treating people with dignity in a place that is not exactly designed for it, right?
Exactly. And then the key thing is we're going to walk away. So what we're trying to instill into them is to create that Christian environment inside of those walls. And we have even been told, I've been told from the warden, a couple of wardens, when we walk away from the weekend, the violence on the yard, even 2 weeks after we have gone, has been lowered. And even right before we come, the violence starts going down. So even while we're there, and even after we have left, the balance on the yard has gone down. And so now these guys have created that that prayer and share groups, and they're praying together and they're sharing together. And then that is spreading out to others who are on the yard as well.
Mm. Rosa, I want you to help us understand Kairos Outside as well, because I think this is the part a lot of people never think about. You said something that really stayed with me. Women who have a loved one locked up do the time right along with their incarcerated loved one. Wow, that's a line right there. Say more about that. What are those women carrying that most people never see?
They are carrying the worrying, the stress. Their loved ones are locked up and they're going through whatever's happening inside the prison. But the women on the outside are worried about their loved one. They're still trying to make sure that their loved one is taken care of, putting money on their books, accepting their phone calls, and still trying to make time to go visit them. If there are children in the home, that's like adds another level of stress and involvement. And it's like the women they're taking care of the home and still trying to take care of their loved one. And they've got so much on them. And then for a lot of women, it's just the fact that, and it depends on the institution, but like when you go to visit, sometimes in the visitation room, we are treated like inmates. The officers are kind of rude or real short and just kind of not really nice or friendly to us. They're treating us like we've committed a crime also. And so you're having to deal with all of that. You've taken your time. You've traveled, maybe it's an hour, 10 hours, whatever, to go visit your loved one. Just kind of have some time with that person. And then from the time you check in at the front gate, you're treated like you've done something wrong. And it can be frustrating on top of everything else you're dealing with. Your weekend, which should be your time to relax and at least breathe for half a minute, you spend your weekends visiting your loved one and being treated like you're the criminal also.
Hmm. So, what changes after this weekend in a woman's face, her posture, her voice, when she realizes that she's not the only one carrying this burden?
I've seen like a glow. Kind of some women have by that Sunday afternoon, it's like a glow. It's like there's a sparkle in their eyes. Some are even just kind of more lighthearted and free-spirited. And for a lot of women that come in on that weekend, a lot of women just go through in general in their everyday lives, just kind of holding their big secret because they don't want anybody to know that they've got somebody who's locked up. Some women, they don't care who knows, they tell everybody. Some women just tell a select few. But then there are some women who go through every day hoping nobody finds out that they have a loved one who's incarcerated. But if you just really look at it, all of us in some way have been affected by that. Either we know someone or have someone who is locked up, or we know of someone who has a loved one who's locked up. So it affects all of us. But there are those women that just carry that burden like that all day at work, whatever their churches. Some people, their churches kind of shun them if they have somebody locked up. So to avoid being like shunned or kind of taken for granted or left out, they just don't tell anybody. And they hope nobody finds out. But at least for that Kairos weekend, they don't have to carry that secret. It doesn't matter if somebody finds out because everybody here has somebody in that same situation. So nobody here is going to look down on you because we all have the same situation. So at least for that weekend, they can relax, kind of let their guard down and just breathe a little while. Now, if they pick that up again on Sunday and take it home with them, that's on them. But at least they've had 2 days to just breathe and not kind of hold on to that secret, hoping nobody knows. And it's just a lot of women are more open. By the time the weekend comes, they start out on Friday, kind of maybe 1 or 2 word answers, or maybe not even answering at all, not sharing at all. And then by the weekend, they're out talking us. Then there's some that come in kind of distant. And by the time the weekend is over, they're the ones that's laughing and smiling and hugging everybody. It's like just a big load has been lifted off their shoulders.
That's amazing. So Kairos is basically not just running a weekend, though. It is creating a space where people can finally exhale, like you're saying, Rosa, and to tell the truth and lower the guard a little, and maybe begin to believe they are not forgotten. And that's not a small thing. So let's go ahead, Walter, and let's name this thing that some people think but don't say, okay? Some people hear about prison ministry and their judgy response is, let's be real, well, they made their choices. I'd rather we talk about that out loud than pretend it's not in the room. So let's talk about it. What do people most misunderstand about this work?
That they're people. They made a mistake. Some of it was intentional. Some of it may not have been intentional. But they're still people. And I would admit my first time going in, I was very judgmental, if you will. I often would say, I could see why you're here. I could see why you're here, but I don't see why you're here, right? Just looking at a person, the way they look, the way they all dress the same, but just the way they carry themselves. And so it got me to thinking, you can look at a person and think one thing about them and be totally wrong. But the thing is, with most of them, we have no idea why they're there. I don't want to know why they're there. It's not for us to know. So we don't know. We just go in, and our whole purpose is just to share the love of Jesus Christ. And we let them know up front, that's what we're here for. You can be a Muslim, and we've had Muslims come in. We've had other denominations come in. And some of them will convert to Christianity. Some of them don't. I've known guys who have stayed Muslim from the entire time that they were there as I was working the Kairos Inside. Even on the youth side, we've had Muslims to come in and participate. And we've even gone in during Ramadan, if I'm saying that correctly, where they are fasting during the day and they are trying to avoid the good food that are coming, out, because like I said, we're bringing good food. But they hold to what their belief is. And as I said, some do change. But we go in and we tell them up front, this is why we're here. We're here to share the love of Jesus Christ. And what's so impactful about that is because you see Black, you see white, you see Catholic, you see Methodist, and everything else. And we let them know that we're all from these different backgrounds. But what they see is, they see this Black, they see the white, and you're a Baptist, you're a Catholic, but you guys are laughing and talking. And so that shows them and teach them another lesson here. Just because we're different, just because we come from different backgrounds, we still can get along. And I think that carries a lot of weight for them, because in there, a lot of times it's the separation. If I'm Black, I need to stay on this side. If I'm a part of this sect, I need to stay here. If I'm a part of this sect, I need to stay here. But when they come into that group or come in for the weekend, they're part of those different sects. But it's amazing how they leave out and they start loving on each other. Yes, they're Black, they're white. They still start loving on each other. Yes, I'm a part of this gang, or I'm a part of that gang. And on the inside, yeah, we would not speak or talk to each other, but they learn to love each other.
Rosa, what do you think people get wrong about the women and families on the outside?
I think a lot of times the women are, like Walter said, kind of there's some prejudgment. It's either, okay, well, you probably were a part of the crime, or you probably helped them do it, or a lot of time is, why are you even staying with that person? Why don't you just leave them, kind of thing. And also, we don't know what their loved ones did. And as Walter said, we don't care. It doesn't matter what your loved one did. You're still suffering. You're still hurting. You're still doing time. So we don't want to know what your loved one did. We don't care what they did. We don't ask them that. We don't ask what your loved one did. Why are you still with them? How long do they have? Are you going to support them while they're in there? We don't ask them any personal questions like that. If they open up and share that, that's okay. But even still, we don't ask and we don't judge them no matter what their loved one has done. So I think it's kind of a, why are you still with that person? That a lot of people have that judgment. And some people probably think you're probably just like that person, or you're guilty too. And they think that, oh, well, at least you're not in there with them, so it's not as bad on you. Not realizing for some women, it's even worse on them than it is on the person that's on the inside.
Walter, let's come back to that phrase, adding value. You said we can leave people, money, cars, houses, jewelry, and all of that can disappear. But the time that you spend with someone, that can stay with them for life. And that's conviction right there. What does adding value actually look like when you're face to face with somebody who feels like they've already been written off?
what it looks like is, I could ask if we would just take a moment and just think of people who has had an impact on your life. You may can remember a few things that they may have said. Maybe it's a quote. I give an example. I had a father figure in my life, and one thing that he instilled into me was stress comes from within and not from the outside. And I lived through that throughout my entire career. And I even, when people is all busy and everything like that, I'm not allowing stress to impact me. I'm trying to control that. And so that's one thing that I remember from him. But the thing that I remember more often is the time that we spend together. Don't remember all the things, all the places that we went. And the same thing with these guys, the same thing with these youth. They remember, maybe not remember the things that you said, but the time that you came month after month or every other week if we're mentoring. They're going to remember that you came and you sat down with them and you spend time with them. And and to me, I think that is the key. If we think about people who have had an impact in our lives, more often than not, what we're going to remember is who was there with me in my lowest moment. Who who was there? Who kept coming back? Who kept showing me love? Who kept listening to what I had to say, or even not saying anything? In some of our training sessions, we do an activity where we just get quiet. And I do this and I don't say anything. And sometimes we get so fidgety because we feel we have to say something. But we don't have to say anything. Just the mere fact that you're there is good enough. And we have to learn to accept that. And then when we do that, people will appreciate that. And so that, to me, I think that's the key moment, is just showing up for that person time and time again and listening to what they have to say when they want to talk.
Well, speaking of showing up, these weekends do not happen without people. And I know there's probably somebody listening right now who maybe you'll feel a little nudge after hearing this, and they're maybe already trying to talk themselves out of it, and by saying, I don't know enough, I'm not qualified, I don't know if that's really for me. Rosa, speak to that person from the outside perspective.
Okay. You don't have to know enough, so to speak, because whatever you need to know to be a volunteer with Kairos, we will train you. We have training meetings where the training meetings really have two purposes. One purpose is to, yes, kind of teach you or teach the volunteers what they need to know in order to be a part of the team, in order to help support the women for the weekend, whether they're working in the kitchen, in the dorms, or in other areas of the weekend. So that's part of the training, is we will teach you everything you need to know in order to help out during the ministry. But the other purpose of the training meetings is to bond, for the people on the team to bond with each other. We get to know each other, who's going to be on the team with us. We get to share ourselves and share our lives. And we build that community. We build that bond. We build that one team, that unity. So when the ladies come to us on the weekend and we're doing our different jobs in our different sections, they see a unified group of people whose common goal is to show them the unconditional love of Christ, whether I'm working in the kitchen, in the dining room, whether I'm serving a table, whether I'm scrubbing a toilet, whether I'm making up a bed, whatever I'm doing, I'm united as part of a team and part of a group with the other people that are on the team. So everything that they need to know, we will teach them. And a lot of people, because being on a team is a time commitment. It's like 5 training meetings, and they usually take place on a Saturday. And a lot of people, Saturday is their time that's my day of rest, so to speak. So I can just do some stuff for me. So it's a sacrifice to give up your Saturday to come to training meetings, but it's well worth it. And for those who really want to get involved but cannot make that time commitment to be on the team, they can also volunteer as an angel. And angels are not a part of the team, but they still are very important. Angels help out behind the scenes. They don't interact with the ladies during the weekend. They help out in the kitchen, maybe cutting up onions or fixing plates or something like that in the kitchen, or helping to make up beds, or helping to set up the campground, or pass out supplies and little things behind the scene. But we need volunteers both to be on the team and also to be angels to help out behind the scenes. And it is a blessing.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Walter, same question from your side. Why is it important for someone to think about coming to volunteer?
Well, it's like Rosa said, it's impactful to you. It's impactful for what you're going to do. Again, we train. We use the phrase, we come in as a bunch of Christians, but we become like the body of Christ when we go into the prison or into the youth detention center because of all the training, all the different things. Again, we have a training on being vulnerability, we have training on being compassion and all of this. And so as we are sharing our stories, as we get to know each other, we become, so connected. Some people say I have my family and then I have my Kairos family. And that Kairos family is just as strong as my regular family because just think about it. You have, men and women serving together that get to know each other. And then sometimes they may know you better than your family because of things that you feel comfortable sharing in that team formation meeting that you're not really necessarily comfortable sharing with a family member because you're afraid of how that family member is going to judge you or whatever. But just think about it. You in a room, if it's a Kairos Inside, a room full of women or a room full of men. If it's a youth, we're training for a youth detention center. It's a co-ed. It's both men and women serving together, a husband and wife team serving together. And then again, you're bonding, you're becoming closer together. I've seen it where we come in and everybody's just kind of getting to know each other. And then we have this overnight, or we have this for the youth, we have an overnight, and we have this special training. All of a sudden, you see almost from night to day of a change in how people interact with each other because now they know each other and they feel comfortable with each other. So coming in and doing it, again, let's get past the judgment. Let's not be concerned about that because, hey, we don't know, we don't care. You're not going to find out unless the person, shares it with you. Most of them are not going to share it anyway. And so just go in and look at people as individuals, not because they're behind a prison wall, not because they're behind a detention center, not because their loved one is incarcerated, but just look at them as the person of who they are. And then go in to start serving these people who feel like they have been forgotten.
Well, and I have a feeling that both of you would say not only does it bless the participants, but it's going to bless the socks off of the volunteer who is doing that, don't you think?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
All right. I want to find out a little bit about you guys. Let's start with you, Walter. Your hobbies read like somebody took a Boy Scout, a craftsman, a pilot, and a man who genuinely enjoys a productive Saturday and combined them into one person. So I need to know, what is the most Walter thing that you own?
The most Walter thing that I own. I guess when people see, and the people who know me will say cycling. I mean, that's what I've kind of been known for. But I think I've kind of been, since retirement, I've slowly kind of evolved from the cycling piece to RC hobbies, remote control type stuff. And like I said, I'm into trying to learn a electric unicycle and a one wheel. I'm just, like a big old kid.
So what hobby started small and is now basically its own department?
The remote control started small and it grew into, my older brother, he told me, he said, you in land, air, and sea. And that started small and it just grew. Because as I started out in one thing and I saw, oh, they have this. And then I went and got that and it just grew. So the remote control stuff really grew for me.
Do you secretly enjoy being the person who knows how to fix weird things?
Well, people do come to me when it comes to, electronics, even sometimes, some of the, I kind of got into crafts type stuff. So I like to just sit back and try to do things differently and just try to, some people say, Walter, you're very creative. And a lot of times it's just a last minute maybe thought, hey, I want to do this, just put a little twist on it and make it, because my thing is I'm just trying to make it fun and exciting. When we have to come to a meeting, what can we still do, staying within the guidelines, as we call it, our riverbanks, but just make it add a little twist to it just to make it fun and exciting. And then by doing that, you keep people engaged because they don't know what's coming up next. They know that something's coming, they just don't know what it is.
All right. Well, you sound like the kind of guy, if we're ever on a desert island, we're going to get off that island because you're going to be the guy that can help us make sure we get off. Rosa, so I want to ask you, what if you were on a cruise, what is your personality? Planner, wanderer, buffet girl, music girl, or nap girl, or all of the above?
On a cruise, I am definitely the music girl. I love all the music and all the dancing activities, and the buffet girl.
All right, that's awesome. So you told me you're a country music fan. Are we talking classic country, heartbreak country, boots on the floor country, or all of it?
All of it. I love Alan Jackson. I love Garth Brooks. I love Tim McGraw, Randy Travis. I love all of them.
Well, shameless plug here. I teach a wonderful up and coming country artist. His name is John McDuffie, and you should check him out.
I shall.
He's an amazing guy. He's I interviewed him. I think it was episode 5. So if you want to listen back to that episode, but you should check out his music. He's got a great lineup. Well, we've been talking for a while now about the value of a person, not the value of someone at their best, not when life is tidy, not when the story is easy to tell, but in hard places, in the middle of things, in the kind of circumstances most people don't want to look directly at. And what we keep coming back to is this, that both of you showed up consistently without needing it to be dramatic or recognized. And that's everything. You know, that's what we've been talking about, is just being present for these people. Walter, what do you most want somebody to walk away from this conversation believing about the work, about the people, and about what any of us can offer?
I think you hit it, just showing up. I mean, community is key. You know, God put us on this earth not individually, but for community. And we all can do different things. Everybody is not good at everything, but everybody can. When we all come together, we all bring our different talents, our different activities, and based off of those different talents, when we all come together, we can just make it so much better. And so the more people we can get to be involved in this, the larger this community and what we're trying to do as far as Kairos is concerned will be great.
Rosa, what do you want most for the women listening right now to hear and believe, not just as information, but a truth she can hold on to?
I would think that I would want the women listening to realize that there are people who understand some of what they're going through, that they are not alone, that they can make it through this with help and encouragement and support, and that people really care for them, and there's a place for them where they can feel accepted and let down their load and just kind of relax and let somebody love them and take care of them, and that they are special.
So if you are carrying the weight of a loved one's incarceration as a secret you have been holding alone, you do not have to keep carrying it alone. There are people who understand, there are rooms made for you, and there is support available. Walter, tell us how to get in touch with Kairos.
Okay, so my email address is W as in Walter, S as in Sam, .kairos@gmail.com. You can reach me there. Also, you can just go out to our website, which is Kairos of Georgia. That's all one word, .org, and you can find out information there. But I would also just send you out to KairosPrisonMinistry.org. That way you can get a complete overview of the entire Kairos Prison Ministry, not only just Georgia, but where all we serve. So we're in 37 states now, and then in also 13 different countries. And so all that information is listed there, and they can go in. And then even if they want to find out more information they can click on a link and take them to whatever state that they want to go to sign up if they want to participate.
Well, if anyone feels a nudge towards volunteering, Rosa, where do they need to go? Do they just go to that website?
Pretty much the same websites that Walter just cited. Also, mykairos.org is another one that they can go to get information and to volunteer.
And you don't have to be an expert. You just have to be willing, right?
Right.
Exactly.
And one thing I like to add, with Kairos Outside, it is a weekend of support for women. And a lot of people think since it's for women that we don't need men. But men can also be a part of the team. Men will kind of help out behind the scenes. There are certain areas that men can work in. They're not there to interfere or to make the women feel threatened or uncomfortable, but they are a vital part of the team. So a lot of people have the misconception of that Kairos Outside is a weekend for women, so they just need women volunteers. But that is not true. We also need men volunteers to be a part of Kairos Outside.
Well, Walter and Rosa, thank you for this conversation, and thank you for the work, and thank you for reminding us that no one is beyond the reach of grace and love. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
I'm Heather Patero, and this is the Heather Patero Show, where conversation meets calling. See you next time. You've been listening to the Heather Patero Show, produced by Heather Patero Studios. Connect with us on Facebook or Instagram, or visit heatherpatero.com. Until next time, stay creative and live on purpose.